Hello guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my theory for the FIREWORK MV. If you've already watched my video on andteam's darkmoon lore, then you would have seen that I didn't include the FIREWORK in the storyline. But here I've basically talked about it, so let's get started. An introduction, as always. So obviously not related to darkmoon, but FIREWORK is an amazing song, so I 100% recommend it to you. I only heard this song 3 years ago because someone on YouTube recommended it as what they consider the best song of 2023. So when I listened to it, I absolutely loved it. So yeah. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is using screenshots from the MVs and linking it with the webtoon to make what I would consider a logical storyline. So just a disclaimer that nothing is confirmed, it's just my theory based on everything that I've seen. So it's fine to disagree as long as you're respectful. And if you want to discuss that, just say it in the comments and I will reply. And to avoid confusion, for this video, the members, quote unquote, always refers to the andteam members. It would only be in hyphen unless, if I specified that, so yeah. So if you haven't watched a previous video that I made on andteam's darkmoon lore, you might be wondering if you need to have background knowledge from the webtoon. So I'm just going to talk about it here. Even though at the end of the FIREWORK MV it says Darkmoon Grey City, from what I've analysed, the MV storyline is actually for 2 moons, which was one of hyphen's storyline installments. So you won't need to know specifically about the stuff that happens in andteam's darkmoon lore other than the characters. But what you will need is an understanding of the storyline of the 2 Moons Webtoon. I know that in my hyphen video, I talked briefly on the storyline of that, but obviously that was made 6 months ago, and a lot more chapters of 2 Moons have been published now, so it's outdated. As a result, I'm going to in the future, I will make a video summarizing what's happened, an updated version of the 2 Moons webtoon, so that you can, if you haven't read the webtoon, you can watch that before watching this video, because I feel like it's very relevant. You need to understand that to understand what's going on in this MV. So, well, carrying on from the 2 Moons thing, I feel like it's a foreshadowing of what would happen later in the webtoon. Because Timer wants to defeat Suha and probably take her powers, just from me looking at this MV, I feel like the FIREWORK MV shows the aftermath of Timer having kidnapped Suha. So linking to that, my summary of the MV is that, in terms of what the storyline's going on, is that the members think of their memories of her and watch the recordings on the camera thing, and everyone has different reactions to her absence. And in terms of reactions, I am going to be talk about the lyrics. Although if you don't understand darkmoon lore and you read the translation of the lyrics to FIREWORK, it could be interpreted as a love song. However, from when I looked at it, I feel like there's 2 sides of it, just a romantic and a friendship way. So obviously romantic, it's only can. These 2, so basically what I just put the Japanese lyrics and then the English translation, because then if you want to look at it, search up the lyrics, you'll know which part of the song it belongs to. yeah, I feel like these two parts, they specifically talk about the lunar eclipse scene. I will go into details about that like very soon in the presentation, so yeah. And in terms of friendship, it's with the other 8 members. So I feel like I want to see you right now. That it suggests that Suha is absent in some kind of way, and that provides evidence for the theory that I talked about earlier. And these two, it's sort of, I feel like that suggests that, you know, I feel like the meaning of these is that it's talking about the reassurance of the members. So you know how like these members, like in the storyline, they're werewolves, but they can't reveal that to anyone. But they can do that with Suha. So it's like the reassurance that they can do that without being labeled as monsters by society. So yeah. So now I'm going to be going on to analyzing the things, like the screenshots in the MVs and how it links to the webtoon. So how I've organized it is that there's the past, the present, and the future. Like each has different sections, and so that it forms like a sort of logical storyline. So firstly, obviously we have the past, which is when Suha was there. So obviously we have the lunar eclipse and Kan's birthday party. And this, I would say, is from Blood Altar's storyline. So like I talked about earlier, there was the lyrics, there was the lunar eclipse scene. So basically, I'm not sure how I would explain this. So you know how like werewolves, they need to transform like every time there's a full moon. Basically the legend, I'm not sure if it's just within the Darkmoon universe or with werewolves in general, but if a male werewolf transforms into a wolf during a lunar eclipse or something, and then the first woman that they see during that they would love for the rest of their life. And that's essentially what happens to Kan. So that's like the lunar eclipse, and that's him like half transformed. And yeah, this is from the Darkmoon anime. And yeah, like that's just Chinese subtitle, like Mandarin subtitles. It's basically just Suha saying, "I thought that tonight was a full moon," but like, yeah, it's in case you were wondering. And obviously that is directly linked to a scene in the FIREWORK MV where like you have the lunar eclipse, there's Kan/K and Suha. So yeah. And then we have Kan's birthday party. This is from the end of Blood Altar, from the end. Like when it was his birthday party. I'm really sorry that the quality is not good because I had to take a photo of it rather than a screenshot because Webtoon wouldn't let me take screenshots from the Blood Altar webtoon. And I think that it's referenced in the FIREWORK MV with like Suha holding the cake. So now moving on to then another thing that happened in the past was, in the storyline, Hypen's characters decide that they're going to, so basically Helly was first going to live at Olive Mansion because like fake Selen wanted him to. But then afterwards, Hypen members decided to join him in order to help investigate timer and like what they were doing. And that's basically shown through like this screenshot of the 2 Moons Webtoon. And because of that, it means that Suha ends up spending much more of her time with andteam's characters, so she becomes close to them as well. And like we have like a Webtoon screenshot of her standing with NZ, Kan, and Mahan. And there's like, I feel like scenes that show it would just be like, from the MV would be that. I guess it doesn't relate to the members specifically, but just the fact that they're spending more time together. Linking to this, when another thing that like happens is that when Selens and then Timer and Blush, etc. started appearing, these mysterious vampires also started appearing. So Suha and andteam's characters go and try to investigate what has happened. Yeah, it's shown in these Webtoon screenshots. Basically, what they find out is that in order to keep Selen alive, they have to like Timer's minions basically have to kidnap people and then turn them into vampires to give power, to give like sort of like life energy to Selen. But I will go into details more about that in the 2 Moons video. And linking to this, like, I feel like the scene from the FIREWORK MV, which links to this, is this screenshot. So it's just like they're out at night doing some investigations. Like Suha's in like riding her bike, and the other members are like running after her. So now we move on to the present, which is now that Suha is gone for some reason, like being kidnapped, how the members are responding to her absence. Firstly, we have to talk about Kan's one-sided love. So the cake is a reference to the one from his birthday party. So that makes me feel like this scene is happening. It's like the next year after what happened in the Blood Altar. And I didn't put a screenshot of it here, but basically Kan/K throws the cake. I feel like the reasoning behind why he did that was because he's upset at her absence, and maybe also that he couldn't protect her from being kidnapped, etc. Not only that, there's also a friendship breakdown. So I guess someone that they've gotten, because the members have really gotten close to Suha, and now that she's suddenly gone, they're probably upset about it, and it's likely to have caused misunderstandings in their relationship. So this scene, like, it shows them fighting on the field, and although it shows a girl like sitting here, and which is probably Suha, I feel like it's their imagination. They miss her, so like in her absence, they still see her in their imaginations. So now we move on to the future. I feel like the MV foreshadows the future. So I just put play foreshadowed by and hyphen, but foreshadow has enough. I've never looked at it, but I didn't intend for it to be connected to the lore. It was just fates, you know. So I think something that could happen in the future is how fake Selen is involved on all of this. Since Selen looks very similar to Suha, I feel like what would happen is that she would try to deceive the members and then try to harm them, which I think is shown through this. So like you can see she's holding something and then it shows the members. I think this one, that's Nicholas. But because the background is red, which in Darkmoon is always symbolic of vampires, I feel like it means that she's being mind controlled or forced by Timer to do this, because in the webtoon, you find out that she is actually being taken advantage of and almost being used as a puppet. So that's what I've deduced. I don't get why it's Nicholas / Najak specifically, but it's yeah. And other thing, other than this main storyline that I have sort of made, there are other things that I think I've noticed in this MV which don't fit into any specific part of the storyline. The first thing I want to talk about is the flower symbolism. If you've watched the MV, you would have seen that yellow flowers appear multiple times in the MV. And I think that symbolizes Suha and or memories of her in some way. And through the appearance of these yellow flowers appearing, like in the order that the MV flows, it sort of summarizes the whole story. I will show it here right now. So at the beginning, so in the past we have Suha spending time with the members, like in this field of yellow flowers. And then in her absence, you kind of have the members holding, like, not in the field, but they still have these yellow flowers. I think it represents that they miss her. And then another part of that is when you see the members running on a field. I feel like based on the story on the MV, this takes place in their imagination, like the fact that they want to be able to see Suha again. So like there's a field of yellow flowers. Something that I have to point out though is that I've never seen these yellow flowers in either the Blood or TWO Moons Webtoon, but I kind of suspect that they might appear sometime in the future. And linking to those yellow flowers, we have, I also noticed something about Tahel / Taki. So, like I pointed out just in the previous slide, the members are on the field of yellow flowers, and that's like the past. But then when we move on to the present, we have Taki / Tahel sitting in the field, but now all the flowers have been destroyed. And you can this picture just shows that it's Taki, in case you couldn't see it clearly. And you see that he's writing in a notebook. That kind of reminded me of something that happened in the Grey City special episode, which is when he's sort of just sitting and he's thinking about the misunderstandings that the members had. So I feel like what he's doing now in this MV is probably writing down his emotions and how like each member is reacting to Suha's absence. I feel like this is something that could be explained later, but I'm not entirely sure. And I've also, so over like my time as a Lune, I've I've watched videos where other people talk about their theories of what's going on in the Firework MV. So I will just talk about my opinions on those. But just on a side note, it's quite crazy how like 3 years ago I discovered Firework, and now I've listened to Firework so much, and I know a lot about Darkmoon, so it makes me quite happy. But go on to these theories. The first theory. So when I was reading the Grey Cities webtoon, I saw people in the comments saying that, wondering if the girl in the Firework MV was Mika. Well, I disagree with that, because in the MV, like when you see Suha, it's obvious that like the logo on her blazer is the Decilus one. So yeah. And then the lunar eclipse scene that I talked about in my presentation earlier, I agree with this because I feel like it's quite symbolic, and it appears in both the anime and the webtoon. So I agree with the fact that it's meant to symbolize how like Kan sees Suha on the lunar eclipse night, and then he's in love with her for the rest of his life. Another theory that I have seen is that essentially all the members are romantically interested in Suha and they fight over her. I don't agree with this, because from the webtoon it's very obvious that only Kan romantically likes Suha. And just from what these characters have gone through in the storyline, in terms of basically having to deal with vampires so many times and losing people that they love, I feel like it's very immature that they would fight over a girl. So, and another theory that I have seen is basically that Firework is an alternate universe where Suha is just initially closer to andteam's characters rather than in Hypen's. I disagree with this because I feel like everything in Darkmoon is one universe, just at different time points in it. An example that I want to use to back this up is that in my Hypen presentation, well, I didn't reference it specifically, but when the Romance Untold trailer was released and there was the character Chloe, people thought that that was an alternate universe version of Suha. But when we came to read the webtoon, and when I made the presentation, the Hypen lore presentation, we found out that it was actually from Children of Anfield, which takes place in the 90s, and that was before Hypen moved to Riverfield and met Suha. So I feel like just on that, each MV, they take place in the same universe, but just at a different time of it. So yeah, that was the end of my video. Thank you for watching, and please listen to Firework and stan andteam. Oh yeah, and if you have questions, you can ask me about them in the comments. I will reply to them.